Yeah, it's gotten way better. I'm just kind of trying to get the lymphatic system stimulated. I have a whole lot of a little bit of swelling still. It's just a mound of it's either coagulated blood or a bunch of lymph that needs to pass. Yeah, it's gotten way better. I'm just kind of trying to get
What you doing for?
stimulated. I have a whole lot of okay. I'm gonna say shalom to everybody because there's a delay. I coagulated blood or a bunch of lymph.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and mute.
Okay, good to see you, sister.
Same here.
Okay, how we doing? We good, Dawiyat?
Yeah, we're live.
All right, brothers. So we're going to get into Revelation chapter 13. We're going to pick up where we left off. But before we get started, go ahead, brother. Brother want to bring out some, I'm going to call him brother T, you know, just to keep things on the dome, on the incognito zone. What point did you want to bring out first, Doc?
Brother T.
And you have to at least step closer to where you can be audible because it's muffled from there.
Oh, Brother T is cool. You good with that?
Say,
And,
go ahead and start speaking.
Also, let's see. In addition to that little Stalin show that we were all subjected to.
I'm sorry. You know, I will be responding here and there. That's exactly what I've been telling everybody. But it was a Stalin-esque coming out party for they're setting the visual for what America and what the citizens can expect. Doc. That's what that was about. It had nothing to do with COVID and distance rules. But anyway, go ahead, brother.
Okay, a couple of other items that you might not have heard of, or they're really hard to find, is that those National Guard, when they were dismissed, they were sent to sleep in a parking lot.
Yeah, I saw that. And then the damn first lady, the first zombie's wife, came out with baskets of cookies. Like this is some Yogi Bear and Boo Boo picnics. Came out with a basket of cookies, Doc.
Yep.
They got them sleeping. Yeah, they had them sleeping on those underground parking stalls.
Yeah, the ones with all the oil and
right. And what happened, Doc? See, like all of that. I don't care what nobody says. All of that is a statement. Had Donald Trump done something like that, brother, they would have let this is how you do the military. And I heard lawmakers from both sides, right, Democrats and Republicans, astounded and shocked, but nobody dare say, listen. They would say, who's in charge? Who's responsible for this? The commander-in-chief is. But they wouldn't say that. Anyway, go ahead, brother.
And another way to dismiss them, an excuse that was used was that one of the National Guard was caught, just one was caught without his mask eating at a restaurant. Wow, okay.
How you gonna eat with the mask on?
Hey, I guess they, like they tell us in the military, better figure it out. So
when they end up killing the nigga, you're like, what'd you do that for? I was figuring it out. You should.
And the last thing I wanted to bring up is that crazy lady Pelosi, she actually wanted to have some machine gun turrets mounted up there so that, it'll have clear view of where the audience would have been standing. We're talking about the kind where you sit on the turret and you just mow down.
Yeah, I know. Probably 50 cal.
Oh yeah. So these are a couple of stories that are kind of hard to find, but like you said, they're just paving the way on things to come.
Hey, listen, I ain't sad one bit because you know why? This is what we've been preparing for. That's what said no generation of Israel in any land in our captivity was able to escape the evil of their generation. So this is the evil of our generation. This is what the Most High have chosen to put us through on our way out of here, because it's designed to give us that last harrowing experience, right? That leads to our deliverance so that we can have that faith cemented, our faith and expectation in him in Christ completely cemented. And so that's funny because maybe today we will get far ahead enough into chapter 13 to get into the section of chapter 13, Revelation chapter 13, that talks about what's going on now concerning what we believe, what I believe. I'm speaking for myself. What I believe to be the evolutionary pattern of what eventually is the mark of the beast stock. And I said the evolutionary pattern because brothers keep on thinking it's one thing and that that's it, but not that it's going to be initially introduced as something that has a trajectory where it develops and expands into more. Because that's what the Bible, most of the things that the Bible prophecies concerning the last days, there are prophecies that's made that reflect a certain point in the development of the overall prophecy. I'm going to explain what I'm saying. For instance, when you read Daniel chapter 7, and it talks about the third beast was a leopard, and it had the 4 wings of a fowl on its back, and it had 4 heads. Well, we know that that's talking about the 4 generals that assumed power after the death of Alexander the Great, but that's a point that had to be arrived at because Alexander started off with many generals, Alexander started off with many generals, and it boiled down to 5 that the kingdom was divided among, and of those 5, 3 of them attacked another one, eliminated him, parted his land and his section, his what he received from Alexander among the 3 of them. Then it was 4. You see, then it was 4 heads. Then the kingdom, the Greek empire was divided among 4. The point is, there was a developmental process historically, a social war dynamic that led to that. And that's how it is with most of the things. For instance, when you read about the 10 horns, the Roman 10 horns, in modern times, it started off as 6. Started off as a group of 6 of the European countries with trade agreements, with industrial and technological trade agreements, and it grew into 10, and then it grew beyond 10. And then I'm back down to 10 again, you know? So that's why I said, the thing with the mark of the beast, the brothers, and they don't be lying, they be telling 100% the truth. That it is the knowledge, you know, the demonic knowledge. It's a philosophical mark, but and that the mark in the hand is a person's efforts, right? A person's contributions to upholding this empire, and that is true. But it is evolving into more, and that's what they don't get when you read chapter 13, which we're going into, and it talks about that he caused all, rich and poor, you know, free and bond, right? Small and great to receive a mark that no one can buy or sell. This is the mark of the beast system that is in an evolutionary process that we can see now. That's evolving to that. And so the issue that we've had in the years past is brothers was allowed to believe that we could break it all down. We can't break it all down. That's why Christ said, be vigilant. So you have to watch to see how some of it unfolds. Yeah, we can break down the history. And yet we can break down and allude to what the future is, but you don't know completely what it is, because only the Most High Christ know that. So hopefully we'll get into some of that. Thank you for those points, Brother Troy. Thank you for that. So this is what we're going to do on the Yetazah. We're going to start off at Revelation chapter 13, and we finished up on verse 3. So we'll do a quick recap on verse 3 and move forward. All right?
Yeah. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 3. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast.
Right. So let me say this so you guys remember. So what we didn't go into was that last precept, but we know that, and that's all. Listen, When I bring this out, I'm just bringing out the main points. There's a long dynamic that led to when it says one of his heads received a deadly wound. We went over this last week. We know that that is talking about what eventually resulted in the fall of the Roman Empire. Hold on. The fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD. Let me just drink this water. And then it says his deadly wound was healed. And so there's a dynamic that took place between 476 AD and 1492. And that's something that you would have to go read your information, do research on the Renaissance, you do research on the Dark Ages, you do research on the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Edward Gibbons is a really good source. But that's what that's talking about. Now, when it says in other words, the deadly wound is the fall, the wound being restored is the Renaissance period, Europe's Renaissance period. And so it says, and all the world wondered after the beast. So how does it, all the world wondering after the beast? This is talking about, we know what the beast is. The beast is the Edomite nation. That's talking about all families. The 7 heads are those what? 7, and with respect to this prophecy, the 7 most powerful empires to arise out of the Edomite nation. Another name for the Edomite nation today, people are referred to as, quote, Europeans or the so-called white race. This is something that people would be having a hard time swallowing, because they start thinking because you said white race that you're speaking racism. No, I'm not. I'm speaking the development of a specific civilization. Nobody has a problem when we talk about how the Most High destroyed the Egyptian civilization, right? But it's the same. It's just a civilization that grew out of a seed of people, right? No one has a problem if you speak historically and talk about how the Assyrian civilization was taken down by the Babylonian civilization. The Most High used the Persian civilization to oust the Babylonian civilization. Then he used the Greek world, right? Precursor to the Roman world. They were the fathers of what? Of the so-called white civilization that stands today, the Greco-Roman Empire. So that's what this is talking about. Now, and all the world wondered after the beast. So first let's do this, let's examine. Go read wonder. In other words, the definition of wonder, so that you can realize that's like to be in admiration of, to be amazed at, to follow after, to go ahead and get it on me, Yetazah. Among many definitions, the term wonder, it's like you can say, I wonder, that means you're questioning something. I wonder what he's doing right now. Or you can say to wonder. Go ahead on the Yetazah. When you get that, let me know you got it.
Okay, I've got it.
Go ahead.
Wonder. 1, a cause of astonishment or admiration.
See that? A cause of astonishment or admiration. Now, it said all the world wondered after them. In other words, they were in admiration, and the world had been from the time of the Renaissance up until now. The world has been in admiration of the beast, of the Edomite or of the European civilization, because of all of the works that it's done. It's not like it didn't do anything. You understand? Their military might, their technological advancements, the contributions that they laid hold on and produced, what, two or three agricultural revolutions? What was the agricultural revolution about? This was all about taking people off of in other words, creating their, I won't say necessarily theirs, but inventions that they had allowed them to take more manpower free that manpower up from the agricultural dynamic. And so it led to what? People being able to have industrial ideas. And then those industrial ideas, which the agricultural revolution freed men up from the field, though the result was inventions. The result was an industrialization spearheaded by Britain into the world. So then people began to what? Wonder and marvel and be amazed at the industrial inventions that they were coming up with. That's that book I won't even mention. The point is, this is how the whole, and to this very day, what's one of the more recent things? I can't even say it anymore. I'm so old. I'm using old examples to show how the world is still wondering after the beast. Because now what? Aside from, let's talk electricity. When I say electricity, I'm talking about the infrastructure. This is the very way how Europe and the European civilization got other nations and how can we put it, to enslave themselves, taking loans out so that these European/American entities could go in and build up electricity infrastructure, could go and build up energy plants. Because what happened? The Europeans had the wherewithal because of their industrialized setting to be able to produce these. But for other countries who still hadn't even gotten into a first agricultural revolution, wanted those very same things. And so they would take out loans so that the Europeans would come and develop those infrastructures, develop hydropower, develop electricity plants, develop to this very day. Russia's developing nuclear plants for nuclear power plants for Iran. Where do you think China got all of its nuclear power capabilities? You got it from the United States and from Europe. Where do you think India and Pakistan got nuclear energy and nuclear weapons from? Got it from Europe, got it from Russia. So this, in every stage of technological or industrial advancement, the other nations were enslaved by what the Europeans were able to take hold on and present to the world. But that would cause what? The coveting effect. People want that. The nations want that. So, okay, listen, we'll put you under a loan, such and such and so, and listen, what happens is we'll come down there and build. That's how Saudi Arabia got built up and made powerful a petroleum company. The Brits, the Dutch, the United States, they went down and built that infrastructure. You understand? I'm trying to give you guys as many examples as possible to show you, to help you to understand when it says all the world wondered after the beast. This is post-Renaissance. This is after that deadly wound was healed. And so the world has been what? Following in the footsteps of Europe for the longest. Now, listen, now we're into the nanotech age. We're into the virtual reality age. We're into them putting shots that are living inside you. And I'm talking about living machines. Who can make something that little? You can't even see it. That's how you know it's demonic. Ain't like a watch where you can pull the back off and put a battery in. They're little. And little ain't, they're microscopic, submicroscopic. That's why they call them nano. Because when you refer to small or very small, it's called micro. You have macro, micro, and nano. And now all the world want the nanotechnology. So those are just, aside from the military might, those, listen, their culture, look at all the Chinese pot grip. We was talking about this today, me and my sons. How they're trying to make the Chinese and the Asians the cool people of the world now.
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, man, these little, never mind.
On YouTube, they're always popping up in my line now.
Yeah, man, the Chinese, the leading role.
I don't know if I can do that.
Everybody's falling in love with the Chinese now, the Asians. But what, they want to dance like us, they want to sing like us. You're damn great. So the point is, all of that going after, wondering after the beast, I gave those examples. Read a little bit more, Amayetas. I read that definition again.
Okay. Wonder, a cause of astonishment or admiration.
Go ahead. Is there more?
the quality of exciting, amazed admiration.
See that? So much so that everybody wanted to get to America. They came from all areas of the globe. They got Chinese Western movies now. What is it called? Trying to think. Maybe I got it wrong. Man, I saw not a whole show, just a movie or a section of an episode. I don't know if it's a series, but Chinese in the Wild West doing karate for niggas, man. You understand? No, why do I mention that? Because the truth of the matter was the Chinese did migrate over to the States and they had them working on railroads. The Japanese migrated over to the States. All of Europe migrated over to the States. All of the East, right? India, China, Pakistan. Y'all been in New York, maybe you haven't been. You know, there literally is the United Nations up in there. So all nations do marvel at and want to get there to what? To partake of that bounty, to stake their claim. Continue on, yet we're back in verse. So that was the end of verse 3. Let's go ahead and hit verse 4.
Okay. Revelation 13, verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast.
Now listen to that, y'all. They worshiped the dragon. It's talking about the world worshiped the dragon that gave power to the beast. How did the dragon, well, listen, we already know how the dragon gave power to the beast, but how did the world worship after? You have to understand the Renaissance dynamic. When the Europeans came, not just to the Americas, they came here first, but as they went around the world, conquering and enslaving and colonizing, what did they bring with them? Religion. The Protestants brought, the people of England brought the Anglican Church, right? The Spanish, French, Portuguese brought Catholicism. And the Dutch brought they brought Catholicism also. They brought some Protestantism, but mostly Catholicism. The point is, they all worshiped the dragon because they were being taught Satanism, what? In the guise of Christianity. And that's why they don't know the Bible. Every place where Esau went, we'll get, actually, I'm not going to mention that until we get to the verse that mentions that. So, go ahead, Amiyatazah. What verse are we at?
Verse 4 of Revelation 13.
From the top again.
And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Now, what civilization can it be said that was so powerful that hands down all nations that crossed its path, or all nations that found themselves in an intersection historically, right, culturally, socially, with this civilization, can say that they were able to beat them? They colonized China, right? They used drugs to weaken China, the Opium Wars. They colonized and divided India and turned it into Pakistan and India. They did the same thing all throughout the continent of Africa. You can go to, I don't even know if they still have it on there, you can go to Wikipedia and look up the term, the rush for Africa. It's got a big old image of Cecil Rhodes standing on top of the continent of Africa. And so no nation, no people, no culture, no other civilization into whom Esau entered was able to withstand or repel him. So much so now that that Europe has extended itself all the way down into Oceania. Don't nobody think about the Aborigines and the Maoris when you deal with New Zealand and Australia. You got Holland went and colonized most of, if not all of Indonesia, right? And you look at global maps, and at the First World War, 1914, I'm looking at my map right now. There's not an island in any place in the sea, and this Lord's big old blue diamond, this blue thing floating in space, there's not one island that doesn't have a European initial underneath, right? It'll say Guam, you know, SP or US, Spanish or the United States. It'll say another Tonga, and then it'll have European initials down there. It'll say, you know, all islands, like the continents wasn't enough. Now, why do I bring that up? Because it is a testament as to what? As to the fact that no one was able to make war and repel them. You understand? And so while they were being brought under subjection, part of the colonization was the religious indoctrination. But in having that religious indoctrination imposed on every culture, they were being made to follow after Satan. And in following after Satan, they also what? Were being subject to worshiping the nation itself, the white man. It says they would worship read it again on the Yetzirah, verse 4.
And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
So they're worshiping the Edomite nation. And you guys see this because everybody want to look like them. Everybody want to be, getting back to them so-called Chinese shows, they be showing the same stuff that Esau be showing. Weak ass men being all shy and scared, don't want to talk to the little Chinese girl. Boy, go in there, tell your name, offer a bowl of rice, take out on a date. But everybody's also afraid. What do I say? And they sitting back in the distance watching her live her life. And is she interested in that guy? The same old Edomite, weak man. You understand? In other words, everybody wants to be him. They've even adopted, that ain't China's psychological profile. That ain't Japanese psychological profile. Being all like some little, you know, emo university dude that hoping this girl notice him. But everybody wants to be like this dude. And that's how you worship that person. They're emulating him. They want to be him. Go and listen. And the proof of that, I might be kicking the dead horse, but I'm gonna always bring this up. When you want to know who Esau really worships and who he really admires, you look at the Miss Universe pageant. Because out of all the nations that participate, nobody sends a woman looking like them. They all send the woman. They all send the ones who in their society closest resembles what their image of the beautiful white woman is. All of them, hands down. You don't never see no wide noses. You'll never see no thick lip. Very thick lips is in, but they gotta be very light skinned with their little pristine nose. The nose gotta be almost not breathable. You almost can't it's so little you can't breathe like it. You gotta say, breathe like a dog. That's how little their noses be. You know why? But when you go back to the land where all of these people, all of the contestants in the Miss Universe pageant, the average normal people be dark as hell, busty as hell, very, very voluptuous in the hips. But why don't they send them? Why don't they say this is our best? Because the best, they know that in their minds they don't have the best. So their best has to closest resemble the so-called white woman as possible. And that's why they don't be having no bosoms. That's why they don't be having no hips. That's why they be looking like 11-year-old boys. Now, what is that demonstrating? Their admiration for that standard of false beauty that's been imposed on them. Go ahead, Yetzirah.
Revelation chapter 13 and verse 5. And it was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies.
Listen to this. So now remember, it's talking about the beast in general, meaning the Edomite civilization, the so-called white race. This is in the transcourse of the global expansion of the so-called white or European civilization, speaking blasphemies. All you got to do is go back, and I don't even know they make these available now. But like books like Charles Darwin, right? About this, people don't understand. His thing wasn't how does it go? The survival. Can you look for the full title? The full title of Darwin, Charles Darwin's, because they keep caps, how do you say, they keep abbreviating the title. The title itself is one of so that pushes and promotes white superiority, but people have decreased the title of the book so that people only know it as the theory of evolution. But it's not, the title of the book is not the theory of evolution. It has something to do with the survival of the fittest theory of evolution and basically superior people. And so between Charles Darwin, his family, the Huxleys, the Galtons of Europe, all of these cats was inbreeding and marrying their families to produce the perfect human specimen. These were the same people. They passed Catholic edicts. They called them papal bulls, where they declared that Indians didn't have a spirit. It wasn't no use in trying to make them Catholic because they didn't have a spirit that was in them. They said the same thing about Black people. This is what it's talking about when it's talking about they would speak great things in blasphemy. The blasphemies that they told are all the lies they ever told on the Most High. They don't use the Heavenly Father to make people, the Bible, the word of the Heavenly Father to make people Catholics. They have a book of catechism. All the sacraments and the stipulations that you got to follow to be considered a good Catholic ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. People don't know that. So they're full of blasphemies and speaking great things because the great things, the medical journals, all the wacky and false science that they promulgated was designed to make all the other nations into subspecies of humans and themselves the model of what human really is. Those are the great things to this very day that he's been speaking. Thank you. Call it out. Go ahead.
On the origin of species by means of natural selection.
Right. The origin of species by means of natural selection. Then you got another cat named Johann Blumenbach, who's the cat that divided man into the three types or four types, I believe, three types, the Negroid, the Caucasoid, and the Mongoloid. So anybody that looked like Gad come from China. That's why they think that's where they get the theory. See, these are the great lies that he was speaking about how we came over from the Bering Strait. We crossed an imaginary bridge of ice that no longer is there because of global warming, according to them. But we all came over from Asia. Then they completely omit the Negroid features and character, the woolly hair of millions of people who are already in the Americas. That many discoverers, right, came and spoke of in their journals. So among many other things are those blasphemies and speaking great things, getting to this land. Go ahead, Amiyatazam, verse 5 again.
Revelation 13 and verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Now, listen, you guys, I don't know if you remember, we just came out of a couple of weeks ago, Daniel chapter 7, and Daniel chapter 12, but we actually broke down Daniel chapter 7, and we got to the verse 25, where it said that the saints who would wear us out, we would be in the hand of that horn that had plucked up 3 of the original horns from the roots, right? Talking about the British colonists rose up and had a civil war among themselves and ejected the British Empire's presence from this place. They would go on moving westward to purchase the Louisiana Purchase territory from the French. And then a series of wars called Spanish-American Wars would finally put an end to the Spanish colonial empire in the Western Hemisphere. That very same horn, it said, would have us for a time, and dividing of a time. I'm calling to y'all remember what we went over, because that is related to this. We even came here. But first we went to what? We went to Revelation chapter 11, and we read how, so let's do that real quick on the yesterday. So what this is, just so that you know, this section, this last half of verse 5 is John is getting a glimpse ahead a glimpse from where are we right now with respect to verse 4? With respect to verse 4, verse 1 and 2 and 3 is talking about the time of Greece and Rome. Then the wound, the deadly wound, puts Rome to an end. Then the wound being healed, who comes out? You're talking about the Spanish. Spanish were the first to get over to this hemisphere. Then the Portuguese, and then before you know, all Europe is colonizing the West, colonizing the continent of Africa, colonizing farther into the East. In other words, so this is looking through that and seeing this place, America, again. So remember, what were the verses that we read that went with Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25, that talked about the time and dividing of the time? It was Daniel chapter 12 and verse 7. It was Revelations chapter 11 and verses 2, 3, 9, and 11. Right? It spoke of 42 months. It spoke of 1,203 score days, which added up to 42 months. It spoke of 3 days and a half. All of those were symbolic of the period of time that Esau in America would have the tribes from the time that the southern kingdom, the first captives of the kingdom of Judah, were sold in North America. That's where that clock begins. So I just wanted to let you know, you got to put in your notes, see Daniel chapter 7, see the breakdown, Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, because this goes in there with it. All right? Okay, I'm a Yetazar. Where you at?
Revelation 13 and verse 6 now.
Revelations chapter 13 and verse 6. Go ahead.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
Right. Now hold on. All right. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High. So how did he open his mouth in blasphemy? I'm reiterating from a certain section of verse 5, where these are all the lies that they told about the Heavenly Father. Remember, what was the more devastating destruction that took place when we think about the conquest of America, when we think about what they refer to as the transatlantic slave trade? It was hell, the actual conquest. Many people died in battle. Many people died by diseases. But what was worse than all of that? Because those that survived the battle and those that survived the diseases would be stronger physically. But what was it that put the type of death that Revelations chapter 11 describes? What was it that put that? What was it that put us under that sword? It was the Catholic, how do you say it, being made Catholics. It was the indoctrination, the religious indoctrination. And so, but that religious indoctrination was nothing more than blasphemies of the Most High. This is where we get all this Renaissance art. Little fat, naked Edomite babies are angels. That's blasphemy of the Most High. You read the description of the angels in the Bible. Then the Most High, man and creator. What's that chapel that it's on top of? Is that the Sistine where they got Michelangelo's, him, I think, the finger touching the other man is supposed to be God and David or God and Adam? I don't know. That ain't the Heavenly Father, but that's blasphemy, because to portray him or any of the holy angels as such, you guys know that those are images of leprosy. That's the Most High's mark of evil in the world, according to the Bible. See, people now Esau and brothers will get mad at you because they don't read the Bible. And every time someone was given leprosy, the Bible doesn't say anything about that person having had their fingers shriveled up, digits, and remember the ear fall off like they portray what leprosy is today. Every time the Bible mentions leprosy, it says, and they was white as snow. It means they got stripped in an instant, some of them more gradually, of their color. So they're going to take that image and make that in the image of the Most High. In other words, that's declaring that they're God. And then they'll be the first to tell you color when you open the book up, or when you say you ain't got to open it. Well, then what color was Jesus? What does color got to do with it? Well, what does it not have to do with it? You took this very same image to everywhere, including China, including Africa, including Indonesia, including Oceania. There's not a place where they went with Christianity where they didn't take the true image. So all of those are among the blasphemies of the Most High and the doctrine that they be teaching. Go ahead, Amayetazar. Verse 7.
Revelation 13 and verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Now hold on, y'all. So when it says, let's speak from the, remember, he haven't specified a head yet. He's still talking about after the second head was wounded. From this point on, it's just making mention of what? Of what the beast, meaning what this civilization would do. So when we deal with America, who was it that the beast had to take down in order to completely claim ownership of the land? The Native Americans, those are the saints. With respect to, now what takes us there? Why do I use that one instead of what the Europeans were doing in Africa? Because of what it just told us in verse 5, where power was given unto him to continue 42 months. That right there is in association, once again, that one is associated, is directly linked to Daniel chapter 7, verse 25, Daniel chapter 12, verse 7, Revelations chapter 11, verses 2, 3, 9, 11, Revelations chapter 12, verses 6 and verse 14, and right here. All of those we found out are speaking with reference to what the saints would endure in that place, according to chapter 11, in that place that's spiritually called Sodom and spiritually called Egypt. So this is an allusion to America, as opposed to the very same dynamic, don't get me wrong, taking place throughout Latin America, the very same dynamic taking place in the continent of Africa, the very same dynamic taking place everywhere where he went and colonized. But this one is drawing our attention to that same place, that to the fourth beast and the small horn of the fourth beast of Daniel chapter 7. Amayetazar.
Yep.
What verse was that?
That was verse 7.
Read it one more time.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them.
Now stop. That's America. But now I just mentioned what? Africa? Amayetazar, could you do me a favor? Put up an image. Look for an image that says the rush for Africa. Now I want you to put that up on the screen.
Okay. Darwan, can you help me? Can you enable me to share, please?
It might be the Berlin Conference, but what I wanted was an image. There's an image that when you go to it was Wikipedia back in the day, and you typed in the phrase, the rush for Africa, they showed the continent of Africa and a big image of Cecil Rhodes standing on top of it.
Oh, okay.
And or better yet, Amayetazar, you can get a map of Africa, European colonization, and you'll see all the places. Brother, in other words, but why do I having you do that? So when we read the second half of verse 12, you'll see that that's talking about the rest of the world, and it says so. But when it refers to the saints, it's telling you what took place specifically in that country, that one nation that would grow out of this beast. And that's why it's so important to understand all the phrase 42 months, all the places that it appears, 42 months.
Sure, I've got some interesting stuff.
Okay.
Well, I've got the one that you want.
Well, put that one up there first.
Okay.
Get it?
Yeah.
There
Oh,
you go. Look at that.
it's crazy.
The scramble for Africa. That's what it says. Thank you. And that's what they did, huh? When people talk about Rhodes Scholar, this is the name who that so-called scholarship and that experience is named after, Cecil Rhodes. Like this person, they'll say, well, this person was a Rhodes Scholar. Right? That means they're being prepared to be an appendage or a servant, of course, high-powered servant of the beast empire. What else did you get out? What else did you have on Yatazar? You said you had some.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So
I think.
huh?
Sorry, when you make your point, I got to make a correction.
Okay, go ahead.
You asked earlier about the full name of the Charles Darwin book.
Yeah.
Nagahas posted in the chat. The full name's actually On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life.
That's what I see. Why I said it talked about natural selection, but then it had what? It had a almost a eugenics. Because these are the fathers of eugenics. Read that title again.
Okay. Thanks, Nagahar, by the way. On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life.
The preservation of favored races in the what? In the struggle for life.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that was a doctrine that they used to justify all the shit that they were doing to all the nations. Because if the nations had been of superior species, then they would not have fallen to what? To their weapons, to Edomite weapons, to the Edomite diseases. All of those things. This was a doctrine that what? That in their minds pacified not even guilt because they don't have a conscience, but what it justified that they were supposed to do that. It almost was an extension of what you could call the manifest destiny doctrine, which is true. People have a problem with manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is true. It's biblical. The Most High, we read how he would do it. We're reading right now. He was what? He's manifesting a destiny that's spoken of in Revelation chapter 13. He's manifesting a destiny that's spoken of in Daniel chapter 7. Manifesting a destiny that's prophesied in 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and 12. It's just that the destiny ain't over yet. The ultimate destiny, the Lord tells you, is what? Real quick, matter of fact, we're already in the chapter. It's going to say that in a couple of verse 9 and 10. We're going to find out what the ultimate destiny that is yet to manifest itself for this civilization. So I'm a Yatazar. Thank you for that. Read verse 7 again.
Revelation 13, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them.
So this is talking about the natives of the United States, the kingdom of Judah brought over and subdued. Go ahead.
And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
And this is talking about the colonization of the world. Let's do this real quick on the Yatazar. This is going to take some time. I want you to get a map of the British colonial empire at its height. I'm going to talk you through the 7 horns so you can see this, y'all, or the 7 heads. I'll be right back. Give me some water. Oh, you got it on the exercise?
Yeah,
What you waiting for, man? Should have had it up there.
I just missed it now.
Now, it's the red, right? Look at it. Listen, you guys. This the most I said. All the beasts. Let me read. I'm going to read verse 7. And it was given unto him. Remember, this is talking about, generally speaking, what? This is talking about the European civilization. Later on in this chapter, it's going to go back and specify more of America. So verse 5 is only verse 5, where it says, are y'all okay? And power was given unto him. Let me see that. To continue 42 months. That phrase is what takes us to America. And that's why I said, see the breakdown for Daniel chapter 25. Daniel chapter 7, verse 25.
Okay. Can double yard read real quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll put the thing on mute.
Okay.
I'm gonna need these images out. Okay. And then in verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Once again, America.
And it was given,
Hold up. Go ahead,
and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Now stop. So when you look at the screen, this is just the British Empire. This is just what was theirs. You see a little bit of the French Empire, right? French West Africa, French North Africa, French Central Africa, right? The blue. You see the region of Syria, and then you see over there under China, that's French Indochina. That became Vietnam. That blue thing over under China. Then you see Madagascar down to the east, southeast of Africa. That's what France did. Of course, you see Spain, but Spain came earlier than this. Remember, Spain came over and staked its claim in the Americas during the 14 and 1500s. So now, in their time, and some of them overlapping, this is what the seven heads did. You got to remember that. This is what the seven heads did. The French, the Romans, the Greeks, the Romans were the first, and they didn't get out of, for the most part, they went only as far as, the Greeks went from Greece on eastward up to close to India. The Romans would go westward and go all the way up to the British Isles and come and get to India also, right? Talking about the Romans. But then after the Renaissance, that's when they got out of Europe. They reconquered Europe and expanded. I'm gonna call to your attention again. This right here in red is just showing you the extent of one kingdom. When Amayatazar comes back, I hope that he can go ahead and push, somebody put his hands up. Huh?
Amayatazar can have a question. I see that.
No, but he's doing something right now. That might be a mistake.
Okay.
Okay, Amayatazar, get the Spanish Empire at its height.
Yes.
I want this, listen, I want this, y'all, so you can understand, brothers and sisters, you guys are going to be referring to this on your what do you call it, on your YouTube page. So this is these images are being recorded as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means this is why I want to take the time and do it. I'm not rushing to break down. I'm not rushing through the breakdown of this chapter because I would like to pull out as much meat, from these verses as possible. So once again, when it says that, and power was given, the last half, the second half of verse 7, and power was given him. Go ahead.
Over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Now you saw that just along with what? With the British Empire at its height. You got 6 more. Oh, not well. You got what? The Spanish, the French, the Germans, the Russians, the British, and the Americans. You got 6 more elements to go according to this breakdown. This breakdown don't include the Belgians. This breakdown don't include the Austro-Hungarians. Look at this, y'all. This is Spanish at its height in the blue up top. Y'all see that?
Huh.
I'm a Yetazah. Yeah, thank you. That's good. Now go from there to the Portuguese. Portuguese had big old Brazil, but then they got a couple other places in the east. The Portuguese colonial empire. Then after that, we'll do France, and then we'll leave that alone. Y'all, you guys know the Germans had a whole lot of holdings in the Pacific and in Africa. And so what that much of the Japanese empire for World War II was territory seized from the Germans after World War I.
And South America too, right?
South America, for the most part, was Spanish and Portuguese, a little bit of Dutch influence, a little bit of the French, and a little bit of the British, as far as the land mass taken. Now, once the gold started pouring in and the revolution started taking place in Latin America, eventually the Brits would be running the economy coming out of there. People don't know that. And just like the Americans running much of the economy of the world today. So I'm gonna post it up there when you get it. I think you would get ready to do the Portuguese. After that, the French, then we'll move on forward in the scripture. I just kind of wanted to get, like I said, I want to have some visuals for the brothers and sisters that will be getting this this session, so that they can have some visual on what's being said. And remember, this is simply talking about the expansion in Europe. All right, there you go. So you see right there in Brazil, but when you go across the Atlantic, right there in the southwest coast of Africa, that's Angola. Israelites, in other words, the Israelites that came from Cabo Verde, that's some little dots in the ocean up there above, but down below, that's Angola, and on the east, the southeast coast of Africa, that's Mozambique. That's where the Portuguese was bringing their people to Africa. No, but that's what they were bringing. I said their people and their slaves. They were bringing from Angola, Mozambique, Cabo Verde. Trying to think of the one up north. I can't remember. They imported a whole lot of brothers from the kingdom of Judah. They called it Waida. It's a French term that means Judah. But and so that's where the slaves were coming to Brazil. And you see the Brazilians look just like us. Okay, I'm gonna get this other. The last one will be the French colonial empire at its height. And then we'll move on forward. Yeah, here we go. Now look at this, y'all. All up in the north, in the Canada, and the Louisiana Purchase territory, over there in the northeastern part, or the northwestern part, I'm sorry. No, the northeastern part of South America. That's French Guyana. Look at all of that. There you go. Madagascar. Look at all of India, Amayetazah. Like I said, French Indochina, Indochine Française. Yeah? Okay. Okay, thank you. That's good. So let's go back on Amayetazah. Dawiyad, go ahead and pick up now at verse 8. So that's what it means when it says in the second half of verse 7, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And like I said, that doesn't include the elements of Europe that second Esdras described. The Belgians, like I said, the Belgian colonial empire, the Austro-Hungarian colonial empire, the German colonial empire, right? That's the whole damn world. The Italian colonial empire before and after the days of Mussolini. They went down and got Somaliland and different sections in Africa also. People don't know that. At what portion belonged to the Italians in Africa? Tripolitania. Tripolitania would end up becoming the nation of Libya, with Tripoli as the capital. This is who it's talking about. And there's no other civilization that did this on this scale. Go ahead, Dawiyad, verse 8.
Verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him.
So that's why everybody, I'm always using Miss Universe, all those nations that stand in awe of Europeans, all those nations that covet and wish to be, you understand, Esau, the Most High said they would worship him. They're worshiping Esau. Go ahead.
It says, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
That means it was never, this is proof right here that none of these nations is intended from the foundation of the world to be saved. Because the book of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, that's talking about what? That's talking about Christ and those who the Most High have determined from the beginning. You guys know that, right? There are the Israelites, those among us, the Most High have determined this before. I'm gonna show y'all something real quick. I think I'm gonna go to the second Esdras chapter 6. If it's not, I will find it. Second Esdras chapter 6. Let me see. Yeah, we only gonna read. Yeah, we're going to read verses 1 through 5. This is just to capture the perspective of, for the most part, whose we are. In other words, and how long we've been declared as his. Go ahead. Second Esdras chapter 6, verses 1 through 5.
And he said unto me, in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightning, or ever the foundation of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys of Zion were high, or ever the present years were sought out, or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed that had gathered faith for a treasure.
Listen to that. Who is that talking about? Before they were sealed, who have gathered faith as a treasure. It means those who the Most High had already sealed, those who the Most High had already chosen and determined, these will be the ones who will believe in me. This was all done before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together. So what are we really doing? We're following a script. And if a person deviates from the script and start ad-libbing and end up leaving the truth, that's because they really wasn't among this number. But this is showing you, this is how, so when it says written in the Lamb's book, matter of fact, let's let this resolve. Because what point is he getting to? Read verse 5 again and read on down all the way to the end of verse 9, all right?
Verse 5. Or ere the present year were sought out, or ever the inventions of them that now sin returned, before they were sealed that were gathered faith for a treasure. Then did I consider these things, and they all were made through me alone.
See that all of the things that he just mentioned. He said, these are my creation. Go ahead.
And though none and through none other, by me also they shall be ended, and by none other.
Go ahead.
Then answered I and said, what shall be the party asunder of the time? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth?
So he said, the Lord said, this is, I'm the one that made it. I'm the one that's going to end it. Esdras is asking, well, when is he going to end then? Go ahead.
And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau.
Mm-hmm.
For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows.
So that's what we're reading about in what? In Revelation chapter 13, we're reading about the trajectory of the world of Esau from the time of the Greeks. And so now we done got through the Romans. We done got through, if we're in what? Verses up to verse 8 now, that means we've made it all the way up to where? We've made it all the way up through the post-Renaissance colonial empires. And we're still waiting on what? On the birth of America to be announced in this. So let's continue to read. So let's go back to chapter 13 and read verse 8 again.
Chapter 13 and verse 8. Revelation. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
Go ahead.
If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
Now, listen to this, y'all. This is wild because people read this and it sounds like it's so what? Like it's so out of place, like it's so all of a sudden he's talking about one thing and this, and then he brings this up. But guess what? This is not out of place. We're reading about the trajectory of the Edomite civilization, the so-called white world, the European civilization, their expansion across the world, the colonization and the conquering and the enslaving and the hoarding of all of the world's wealth and resources is slavery to the rest of the world, particularly the Israelites. That's why it said, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Why? Because that's what this dude has been doing. In other words, this verse is proclaiming what this nation can expect, but in what? In reference to what they've done. Go ahead, read the second half of that verse.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
Because that's how he got everybody on the planet to marvel after him. That's how he got all these other nations that he subdued to what? To worship him and to worship the dragon or to worship the beast. Go ahead.
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
This is what the saints, the Israelites, are waiting for and trusting in. That he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. That he that killeth with the sword must be, and therefore will be, killed with the sword. Go ahead now. Let's talk about the birth of America. Go ahead.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
So this is talking about the surgeons, the birth of the Anglo-American Empire. That's why I said it had two horns. I'm a Yataza. I don't know if you're there now, but could you put something up concerning the Anglo-American Empire? It's talking about, just like the Greco-Roman Empire, the Romans born out of the Greeks. Well, you have the very same thing that took place solidified post-World War II, the Anglo-American Empire. And that's where we stand right now. And you've heard the information that people like to refer to as conspiracy theories about how in the 1800s, forget specifically what year, the dynamic that took place in the United States with the government, the Treasury Department, resulted in America becoming a part of the British Empire again. That's true. And that all of the banking systems, what? Are that of the Rothschilds and the fractional reserve, fiat currency, Federal Reserve banks. They don't belong to them. They're not entities that are, let's say, properties or institutions of the various countries. Don't let the term federal fool you. It's no more federal than Federal Express, which is a private company. So that's the truth. And so, and this is why, among many reasons, why it is called the Anglo-American Empire. And then in any endeavor in war, look at it from at least from 1991, right? 1990, 1991, Desert Storm. Who was the ally, America's staunchest ally in all of these crimes against humanity and these illegal wars? This is Tony Blair, the British. So listen to this. And I beheld another beast come up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like as a dragon. It's talking about all the threats. And you guys just wait. Now that the new president is in town, you're gonna watch the wars ramp up again. They're gonna send troops back into Syria. Watch, Syria's gonna become a hotbed. Iran is gonna become even hotter. Now that's not including all of the clandestine operations that they got going on in Africa and in other places in the world.
Want to read it 12?
Yeah, read verse 12.
Verse 12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him.
Go ahead.
And causeth the earth of them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
So he's telling you, now whose deadly wound was healed? What was that first beast who had a deadly wound, but then it was healed? It was the Greco-Roman Empire, right? Verses 1 through 3. The Greco-Roman Empire. So that's saying this kingdom is doing all the very same thing that the Greco-Roman Empire did. So let's go back and read. What did they do? And we're going to see the similarities in what the Anglo-American Empire is doing and what the Greco-Roman Empire did. So in order to get that information, because many people don't know, we'd have to go to 1 Maccabees chapter 8, and we're going to read verses 1 through 16. Because what is it that we are in search of now? Well, this led us to that. It said that this new beast that have two little horns like a lamb, that's speaking like a dragon, that it exercised the same powers as the first beast that had received the deadly wound, whose deadly wound was healed. Once again, it's talking about the Greco-Roman Empire. So what was it that how did they operate? So let's go to chapter 8 of 1 Maccabees. My wall, I want you to read so you can wake the hell up. And I need you to read out, and I need you to read coherently, okay? Okay, go ahead, brother. You can start off. 1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1.
1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1 read. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great valor.
Now listen to this. What's taking place right here? Right here, we're going back in time during the time of the Greeks, or I should say, yeah, what's the time of the Greeks? And we were, you back on the exercise?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 8. Chapter 8 and verse 1, I'm sorry. 1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1. So this was during a time that our fathers were being what? Were under a process that in modern times has been called Hellenization. The Greeks were doing now what we're reading about what they did after the Renaissance.
Yeah.
They were imposing their culture on us. They were imposing their idolatry on us. They were eradicating all of our practices, the same thing that they did to the indigenous in these damn schools and day schools and things like that, right? In the missions, couldn't speak your language, couldn't exercise the practice of your culture. And so Judas is considering how to best free us from the yoke of the Greeks. And so news is being brought to Judas Maccabees concerning the up and coming Romans, right? The up and coming Romans. And so he's considering what? Establishing an ally, or establishing themselves as allies to Rome. Now listen to this. So he's going to describe, Amiyataz, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. So this reading, why are we reading this? So that we can know what it was the Romans exercised, because it said in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 12, it said that what? That this new beast with the two horns exercised the very same power that the first beast that had received the deadly wound, whose deadly wound was healed, had exercised. So we're going to find out what was it that the Romans did? What was it that the Greco-Roman Empire, how did the Greco-Roman Empire exercise power? And then we'll know what it is the Anglo-American Empire is doing. So go ahead, Amiyatazar, verse 1.
First Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians.
So when it says done among the Galatians, it's talking about the realm of Gaul. And who was it that took the Gauls down? It was Gaius Julius Caesar. So he was getting news about Gaius Julius Caesar. Go ahead.
And how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute.
So listen, now what happens today? People don't understand. This is the thing that takes place. The nations get what? The nations get taken down, right? Well, we'll get to that later. Right now it's talking about conquering them. And when it says brought under tribute, what does that mean? That means the country ends up what? Having to shovel over most of the resources that their country produce. This is what takes place today. This is how you end up with Iraqi oil. This is how you end up with Libyan oil. This is how you end up with territories, and you can put what? Military bases over in those foreign lands. That's exactly what the Julius Caesar did in Gaul. Then they start bringing over what? More of the people, more of the troops to settle. Sometimes the troops, most of the time, in fact, the troops take women of the land, bear them children, and before you know it, the ethnic demographic of the country changes. That's what happened here in Americas. Then those that can afford start coming over. Then those that are desperate start coming over. And before you know it, the ethnic landscape of the Western Hemisphere has been completely changed to being what? Dominated by Europe. It ain't Latin America, it's Europe. You understand? It's not the North America, it's Europe. It ain't Canada, it's Europe. It's not New Zealand, it's not Australia, it's Europe. It ain't Brazil, it's Europe. That's what people don't get. So this is what the French, this is what the Romans did. They took down the landmass today that's of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and certain sections of Holland. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and gold which is there.
Sound familiar? The Anglo-American Empire goes places, and like I said, it just so happened that with the Spanish, right, in Spain, what had happened? Spain was a place that was known for its silver mines. So that's what that was the resource that land had to offer. But there were other countries that had other things. Like, for instance, you talk about West Africa and certain sections of Africa, they're there for the diamonds. Others, what does Africa have to have? The timber, the lumber, the wood, all these different things. It depends on the gold mines, silver mines. Remember, they came to the Americas and it was about what? Cafe. It was about cacao. It was about tobacco. It was about cotton. It was about gold, silver, precious stones. These are the things. And listen, and then it got into the petroleum in Venezuela, the petroleum in Brazil, Petrobras, the petroleum company, the petroleum in Mexico. These are all the resources in the form that tribute is paid today. Go ahead, Amayeta-san.
Verse 4. And that by their policy and patience they had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them. And the kings also that came against them from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomfited them and given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year.
This is just talking about their military exploits. Continue. Now, see, today they do it different. Back then, they found out what you had, and if they wanted it, if it was worth taking, they took it. And why? Because we can. Today, they have to create some humanitarian crisis, some farce about what, going over to offer assistance, creating the destabilization. All, in other words, everything is done to try to maintain the image of having a moral high ground. And all of that be lies, all of it. There'll be no truth in it. Why? But now they're into this image, being the bastion of the modern day free world. So that's why they come up with these political, I'm gonna call them geopolitical theater, so that the Americans, so that the Europeans can feel good about what they're doing, how they're going over and spread democracy. And the people get democracy, and then that's all they be left with. They don't be left with no land. And then the European countries and the places, they complain about the migration because they go there and they steal everything that the country has to offer. And then those people start going up to the country that stole their shit. Now we got a migration problem. That's the same thing that the Romans were doing. The very same thing. And what was it that took Rome down? The invasions, the immigration. What was taking place? There was a time where there were more slaves in the Roman Empire than citizens. And so the citizens themselves, what? Had no work. Because most people had, the people that had slaves, that the common person could have had job to work for. In other words, there were no job markets. That's the same thing. That's how our brothers and ourselves are being used, but in Latin America, sent up to the Americas to what? To flood the job market with cheap labor. It's the same thing happening in America now. One of the first things that Biden said he was going to undo that Trump did was that wall. And he's going to go into amnesty and begin to what? Now, I'm not weighing in on the issue of fairness or not, trying to show you how the paradigm, how it's used to weaken the nation economically. And the same thing happened in Rome. And it drove down wages and you couldn't even make a living. And then what else was taking place simultaneously? That Rome was militarily spread thin throughout its empire, just like the world today of America, the Anglo-American Empire. And every president keeps promising to bring the troops home and nobody does it, right? No. Go ahead, Amayeta-san.
Verse 5. Beside this, how they had discomfited in battle Philip and Perseus, king of the Cittims, with others that lifted up themselves against them and had overcome them.
So when it says king of the Cittims, I believe that was the island of Cyprus. All of these cats was coming up against the Romans. And this is in the days when the Romans were a republic. Go ahead.
Okay, verse 6. How also Antiochus, the great king of Asia.
Antiochus, the great king of Asia, is talking about the father of Antiochus Epiphanes of chapter 1, of chapters 1 through 5, right? This was his father. They call him an Asian because he ended up taking as his capital, Syria. But then he had what? He had Babylon, he had Persia, he had Assyria, and he would go back and forth between Egypt over Israel, right? Battling Daniel chapter 11, the king of the south and the king of the north. Go ahead, Amayetazar.
Okay. Verse 6. How also Antiochus, the great king of Asia, that came against them in battle, having 120 elephants with horsemen and chariots and a very great army, was discomfited by them.
In other words, the Romans whooped up on Antiochus III. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And how they took him alive and covenanted that he and such as reigned after him should pay a great tribute and give hostages, and that which was agreed upon.
That means when Antiochus was taken alive, he had to send Antiochus IV to Rome to be a hostage while he paid his war indemnity and his tribute. And then when he died, Antiochus Epiphanes was released. This is what we read when we get to what? First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 10. It says Antiochus, and there came up from them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, who had been in hostage in Rome. This was the reason why. It was part of an agreement that would ensure that his father would pay tribute. Then when his father died, he was released and had to leave one of his sons so that he could continue paying the tribute and the war indemnities that his father had accrued. That's what this is talking about. Go ahead.
Okay. Verse 8. And the country of India and Media and Lydia and of the goodliest countries which they took of him and gave to King Eumenes.
Now, Eumenes, right? In other words, in losing his battle, he had a large portion of his kingdom, of his empire taken and given to another king. In other words, what is it telling you? And we're going to get more detail as we read down. The Romans were big time into regime change. They would go into a country, overthrow, do what it took militarily to throw out on the king, and then they would set up who they wanted, who would be friendly to Rome. And this is what they do in the United States now, but they keep calling them what? They keep calling them democratic movements. They did it in Chile, they did it in Brazil. They're doing it now. They just got through doing it in the States. They did it in Iran, Indonesia, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. They tried it in Venezuela in 2002, it failed. And so they've been attacking in various ways Venezuela ever since then. To what? To have a military intervention. They did it in Panama. More recently, I don't know, 2012, 2000, I can't remember what year, Hillary Clinton sponsored it in Honduras, where they overthrow a king with military intervention or a head of state today, and then they set up a puppet head of state that's more friendly toward American or European or British policies. And the policies that they want them to be friendly toward is sacking the country of its resources. That's what it is. So once again, what are we doing? We're reading First Maccabees chapter 8, verses 1. I said through 16. We might not need to read all the way through 16, but we're reading here to find out what was the dynamic of power that the Greco-Roman Empire exercised. And it said that this new empire would come and do the same. And so this is what we're reading. Go ahead, Amayetazar. I call the verse out.
First Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 9. Moreover, how the Grecians had determined to come and destroy them, and that
the Grecians are talking about the remainder of the descendants that inherited Greece and Macedonia in the death of Alexander. So you're basically talking about the descendants of Cassander, right? He got Greece and Macedonia. And so they would eventually come up against the Romans. They made movies about this back in the 50s and 60s, right? Demetrius and the Gladiator, or then the next one was called The Road. And it opens up with the Romans having defeated the Greeks, and then there's this one rebellious Greek that can't be subdued, and somebody comes and purchases him and makes him into a gladiator. It's called the Demetrius and the Gladiator. And then after that, it's called the Roll, because the second part is Demetrius witnesses the crucifixion of white Jesus and ends up with his mantle. And it drives him crazy because he's called to be a Christian. Anyway, the point is, there's movies that show how the Romans went and took down their cousin, the Greeks. Go ahead, Amiyah, read that from the top of that verse again, verse 9.
Verse 9. Moreover, how the Grecians had determined to come and destroy them, and that they, having knowledge thereof, sent against them a certain captain, and fighting with them, slew many of them, and carried away captives their wives and their children, and spoiled them, and took possession of their lands, and pulled down their strongholds, and brought them to be their servants unto this day.
And so this is how the Greeks became a what? Became a vassal or a province, one of the 10 horns in the sense of the provinces of the Roman Empire. And the culture was still Greek. That's why it's called the Greco-Roman Empire. Go ahead, Amiyah, verse 11.
Verse 11. It was told him besides how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdoms.
Remember, this is Judas Maccabees getting a report. That's what it keeps referring to when it says it was told him also. This long line of information is he's getting because he's trying to consider, okay, how can we remedy this problem? How can we get the Greeks yoke, break the Greeks yoke from off of us? And so it turns out some of his brothers had heard about the fame of the Romans. So once again, Amiyah, verse 11, it was told him besides, meaning more information. Go ahead.
Verse 11. It was told him besides how they destroyed and brought under their dominion all other kingdoms and isles that at any time resisted them. But with their friends and such as relied upon them, they kept amity.
Now hold on, this is how America operates also. With their friends and their allies, that's the one that they keep our friendship with. So this is why you always see Spain, France, England, right, up in those military endeavors. Continue.
Verse 12. But with their friends and such as relied upon them, they kept amity, and that they had conquered kingdoms both far and nigh, insomuch as all that heard of their name were afraid of them.
That's how it is with the Americans and the Brits. You guys ever see that? What the film footage when the United States military rolled up from Kuwait into Iraq, and Saddam Hussein was talking about this is going to be the mother of all wars and all of this, and we're going to do that. And the minute they rolled in with them tanks, all the Arabs dropped their guns, the Iraqis, and they was bowing down. And I love America because they heard the damn Americans was coming. And that's what happens. In other words, if you stand on top of news with respect to potential invasion, they always going to end up showing you footage and interviews of the citizens of the country that's looking to be invaded. And it strikes terror into them. Because that's what happened. That's how the Roman, because everyone knows, listen, you got pictures of Baghdad before democracy and Baghdad after democracy. You got pictures of Libya, Tripoli, the capital, before and after what? Before and after democracy. You got photos and images to this today, this ongoing campaign in Syria, right? America or Syria before and after, or before and during the process of receiving democracy. And they turn their places into wastelands. That's what brings that fear. It's the state. They evoke the very same fear that the Romans evoked when people heard of them. Go ahead, Amiyah.
Verse 13. Also that whom they helped to a kingdom, those reign.
Read it again. I'll read verse 13 again.
Verse 13. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign.
So now what this is talking about what? Regime change. Those who they would help to a kingdom, those are the ones that reign. So who do you think put Saddam Hussein in, y'all? The United States put him in 1979, overthrew the Iraqi king and installed him the Ba'athist Party, a secular, wasn't a theocratic, government, was what their religion was Islam, but it wasn't Islamic government. They did the same thing with what? With the Shah of Iran, after financing the coup and overthrow of Mohammed Mossadegh of Iran. They did the same thing in Guatemala. They did the same thing in Panama. They did the same thing in, like I said, Brazil. They did the same thing in Chile. Those who listen, like I said, and they tried more recently to do the same thing with Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. Meaning those that would reign, they set up. And then when they don't want you to reign, read on down on me. You have to read it from the top of that verse again.
Verse 13. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign. And whom again they would, they displace.
So that today they are called taking a king or taking a head of state and displacing them. They call that regime change. Now, once again, I'll keep on reminding you, what are we doing? We're finding out in Revelations chapter 13 and verse 12, it said that this beast that had two horns, that spake like a dragon, that it exercised all the power of the first beast that had suffered a deadly wound, whose wound would heal. So it's talking about they exercised the same power of the Greco-Roman Empire, and this is what we're finding out the Greco-Roman Empire did. And this is what we can go. We can start off as early as 1950. What is it? 1954. Amayatazar. Look up real quick because I get 54 and 56. I think 54 was Iran. Just put the Shah of Iran installed in the Shah installed in Iran. That's going to either be 54, and then Pinochet or it might be Pinochet installed in just do Iran first. Because I remember this was the first one, because it was, who was that guy? The guy that sits on the horse at the museum, Teddy Roosevelt. It was his grandson that was given a couple of $1 million, and they were exercising actually a new project to see if it could work. And he went in there with about $2 million and actually pulled off a successful destabilization that resulted in what? In overthrowing a democratically elected president and installed a dictatorship. You got it, Amayetazar?
It's an interesting time.
You want to know how it happened? Go ahead, Ak.
It's you're gonna love this.
Okay.
So basically it's saying that there was a coup d'etat in 1953.
Okay. Listen, Ak, could you put it on the thing, or you gonna just read it?
The headline for this is just nice, but it
That's
doesn't
what I'm
make
saying.
sense.
That's what I'm saying. At least because I want to have the chronicle, the head, at least a visual, so that people that are studying this, they can go and get it extensively themselves. How, there you go, Ak. How the step on short, look at this, Ak. How the CIA overthrew Iran's democracy in 4 days, y'all. And that was done by Kermit Roosevelt. He pulled it off. Grandson of Theodore Roosevelt. Now, was there some excerpt that you were going to read?
No, I just wanted to show you the title.
Okay, thank you. Find the same thing down in Chile.
Okay.
Now you can read it about Guatemala. It's a book called Bitter Fruit. I forget who the authors are because they got them German or Polish or whatever Eastern European names. But the book is called Bitter Fruit, and it's about how the president Arbenz was overthrown over his agrarian reform, meaning he wanted to allocate more land to food production in Guatemala. Guatemala was bombarded on 4 occasions, man, between the 50s and the 60s by the CIA. So let me know when you get that, all right?
Yeah, Pinochet was 1973.
There you Pinochet, right?
Yeah,
That Chile, right?
yeah,
That's 1973, right?
yeah.
Okay, that's that. But put it on the thing, on the screen.
The last one.
Documenting U.S. role. This is called, y'all, because it keeps CIA, U.S., CIA, documenting U.S. role in democracy's fall and dictators' rise in Chile. Y'all see that? Now, what is this? What is this though? This is a manifestation of what the Romans did. All that means is what? The ones who they did not want to rule, they ousted and put in who they wanted to rule. Thank you, Amayetazah. So I want you to read verse 13 one last time, and then we're going to go back to Revelations chapter 13.
First Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 13. Also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, and whom again they would, they displace. Finally, that they were greatly exalted.
And that's it. And the Americans today are greatly exalted. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 13. So then instead of for verse 12, instead of First Maccabees chapter 8, verses 1 through 16, it's First Maccabees chapter 8, verses 1 through 13. All right. Okay, brother, you're in verse start off at verse 11 again. I'm gonna get this out.
Okay. Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
Go ahead. The Anglo-American Empire, continue.
And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
Go ahead.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
This is talking about his bombarding of all the places today. Now, Amayetazah, I just want a few. Is there any image you can do that? This is what you look. You put up campaign shock and awe. March 2003, and you guys gonna find out. Every time you saw do some grand big old campaign, it'd be in the month of March. You guys know that, right? Most of the time, because they be honoring the god of war, Mars. So do that, Amayetazah. Look up the image, bombardment, campaign, shock and awe. And of course, you can most appreciate it if you go and you look at film footage. And it was just lighting up the sky, bombs just dropping. Of course, the next day they had the images of just back to literally bombed them back into the Stone Age. But that's what it's talking about. And so you look at, after this, first put that up there on the Amayetazah. Look at that, y'all. Fire coming down from the sky in the Sodom Men. And how do we know it's in the Sodom Men? Because we got the photos. Somebody was there taking the picture. Horrible. Now, Amayetazah, go get the picture. Go get the pictures of campaign shock and awe after or results.
Okay.
And this right here, by the way, you guys, goes with Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 14, where it says, Lucifer, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and say, is this the man that did what? Shake kingdoms? Is this the man that did weaken the nations? That made the cities as a wilderness? That's why I want those images of Baghdad after shock and awe campaign.
Okay. Okay. I got two images.
Okay, cool. Look at that, y'all. That was after that long night. Horrible. And then the next one. It was better to live in Iraq under Saddam. See that? But what happened? Regime change, like the Romans. Saddam wasn't friendly anymore toward the Anglo-American interests. The country has begun to slip into anarchy, but it wasn't always like this. It used to be a much happier and safer place to live in. This, of course, is June 2014. And remember, this started in March of 2003. 2003 it was. All right,
they would say the same about Libya, wouldn't they?
Exactly. As a brother, let me say this. Libya, they had it. They had it. Muammar Gaddafi continued to live in a tent. He vowed when he took power that he would never get a house, not for himself or his mother, until every Libyan citizen had their own home. And he died in a tent. He didn't die living in it. They sodomized him and put a 45 slug in his head on live TV, sodomized him with rebar on TV, and then shot him. But the policies, you got to read about Libya, man. You got education. If you got your education paid for, and if the Libyan education system didn't specialize in what it was that you wanted to go into, let's say architect, whatever, they sent you abroad to the country and paid for your education, where it was specialized at. A married couple, they literally got the equivalent of $50,000 to start their life, newlyweds, Yatazar. You wanted a home, you get a loan out for a home, no interest loan. This is why they were, and he was using that money from his sweet crew to do a whole lot of developing in African countries that were poorer than Libya. That's why they took him out. And now it's a Negro slave market. Y'all know Libya, right? In Benghazi. Slave market, modern day slave market now. Okay, you got something else you're gonna put up?
No.
Okay, so go back to now we're done with that. Read verse 13 one more time and then we'll go into 14.
Revelation 13 and 13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Right, go ahead.
And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast.
So it says by the means of the miracles that he had power to do. What is it? Oh, excuse me. What is it when it says by the means of the miracles, what was it that facilitated these miracles, y'all? You know what facilitated these miracles? His technology. His technology. It just so happens that the bombs is from what technology invested in military, you understand, in defense spending, so to speak. But then he has what? He has technology in other fields also. And everybody covets that what? That European technology. Now this is going to go back in time. People think this is what we're getting ready to be now, is talking about the television. But read on down on the Yetazar.
Verse Revelation 13 and 14. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto them.
Then hold on, listen to this. That they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So once again, who was that, or what was that beast, that head that suffered a deadly wound and was what? And was restored and was healed? It was the Greco-Roman Empire, but it came back as what? The Spanish, no, all of those post-Renaissance colonial empires that would emerge. So when they emerged, what was the image that they all unanimously emerged with? The false Jesus. That was the image. This is going back in time, talking about the what? The spread of Catholicism, the spread of Protestant Christianity, and everywhere they went, they took unanimously the same image. Go ahead, Amayetazar.
Verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast.
Now hold on. So when it says he had power to give life to the beast, what is the life of the beast? It's talking about the doctrine. Read it again, Amayetazar. Verse 15, right?
Yeah, verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
So now this is talking about what? This is talking about the Inquisition, how people that didn't accept the holy faith, the Catholics was killing them, burning them alive. This is the same manner in which what? The Native Americans, our brothers, all of us over here in the States, in the Latin America, all over, where when you read the history on how they did it with Brazil, before you got on the boat, before they put you on the ship, they shackled you, they gave you a new name, and you were baptized into the Catholic faith, put on the ship and sent across. They labeled them pieces, like pieces of a machine or something. Piezas is what they call them. They wouldn't even call them human. And so that's what happened. This is how we got religion. And you know what? I'm a Yetazar. I'm trying to think of a famous portrait. I don't know who it is. Look up Atahualpa, A-T-A-L, H-U-A-L-P-A, Atahualpa, the torture of Atahualpa. You're going to find it. There was another one, the torture of Cuauhtemoc. These are all the Native Americans, brothers from down here, that Esau tortured. There was another one who he chopped off his hands. He ended up getting spikes put on his hand and came back and fought the Spanish to his death. That might be Cuauhtemoc. Or not Tecunuman. What's his name? No, that might be Atahualpa. You got Tecunuman, was like the last monarch of the Mayans. Cuauhtemoc of Mexico, not the last, but up there with Moctezuma and them. And then you have Atahualpa, which was the last king of the Incan Empire. And they have artists' renditions, very old, of the day, to that that demonstrate what was done to them in their generation. So if you find it on the X's, I hope I spelled it right for you. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So people think this be talking about the television. I'm going to read it again while he's bringing that up. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So when it says the life of the image, it's talking about, I'm going to show you. What is it that Christ tells us about the doctrine that we have? Let's go there real quick. Go to St. John. Dalia, you're going to read this for now. St. John chapter 6 and verse 63.
St. John chapter 6, verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, and they are life.
Now, that's what brings us to life. Hold on, let's see what this is. Okay, I thought they might have an image. Like they got images of these picture paintings of this dude.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Stake.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Yeah, I want the ones on him on the stake being tortured with damn flames around his ass. And they got another one hot, and they're holding the cross up to him. I'm trying to show the image that depicts this verse. Don't worry, Dalia, we're gonna get back to that.
No.
Hmm. Okay, here's the best one.
Go ahead. There you go. See that? History's post images maybe. I'm trying to look for the name. Españoles en las Indias. Anyway, that's a popular one. You all see it in all cases, right? In all quadrants or blocks there. You see the Spanish standing around, and this guy's that's either Cuauhtemoc or I believe that's Atahualpa. I can't remember. But
Yes, that's a wild one.
that's Atahualpa. Okay, yeah. Because Cuauhtemoc, they got him on a bench, like a waterboarding bench, and torturing his ass. Right? But this is a very popular depiction, but there's one, this is a depiction of the original painting depiction. Okay, now let's go and break that verse down. Thank you for that image, Amayetazar.
Okay.
So when you read verse 15 again.
Revelation 14. So Revelation 13 and verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast.
So now when it says life, it's talking about that image was accompanied by a doctrine. I'm gonna prove that. It was accompanied by information. So the first verse that I'm using to prove that is what? What Christ, remember all they came and did was they exercised the dynamic that they used the Bible or imagery of the Bible to pull it off, to do it, but it wasn't the doctrine of the Bible. So we're gonna read what the Bible says itself it is, and remember this is what they were what? Impersonating, or not even impersonating. They were. I'm trying to think of the term. They were counterfeiting. They were taking the Bible and counterfeiting it with what? With their own doctrine. So the first verse that I had Dawiyad read on me is I go there, go to John chapter 6 and verse 63. first part that we read is, and he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak. Now we're going to deal with that alone. Because it's telling you, for instance, well, first let's read it. St. John chapter 6 and verse 63.
John chapter 6 and verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
So it's the same thing with the Catholics. It's the same thing with false doctrines. And that's why the Most High called them what? Seducing spirits and doctrines of devil. They carry a message. So when it says it had the power to give this image, what? Life and to speak. That means when you look at that picture, even the atheists know it. When you look at that picture, they'll say globally, that's Jesus Christ, and he died to save the world. Because for God so loved the world that he gave him, that whosoever believed in him would not perish but have everlasting life. They say that shit in Chinese. They say that in what? But they all said in reference to that image. And the atheists say the same thing and say, yeah, that's Jesus Christ, in whom I don't believe. But they still know who it is. That's the breath. And the doctrine, like the Most High tell you, the breath is the doctrine. Let's get that. Let me show you that. Now when I'm saying, I'm showing it to you from what? From the Israelite perspective. I'm showing it to you from the biblical truth. But what were they doing? They were counterfeiting the biblical truth. They were using the imagery, crosses, figures that they claim to be biblical figures and what? And lying about the image and the doctrine that go with it. And that is what gave life to it. That is what? That is what brought it to life. That is what it became characterized by that dynamic. I don't know if you guys see that or not, but that's good enough. Amayetazar. Go from there. Continue to read down in verse 15.
Okay. Revelation 4, verse 13. Revelation chapter 13 and verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
And that's the Inquisition, man. That's Europe's side, and then in the United States and out through Latin America and the rest of the world, it was just what? The dynamic of colonization. This is what all nations had to go through. This is why to this very day, you can go and look at the darkest continent, the darkest place of Africa, and you got these people still carrying this little image of the Virgin Mary, the white image. They do the Catholic processions. I remember the last church I went to before I came into the truth, during the whole height of that apartheid South African stuff. One of the damn Catholic bishops visited the church that I was Desmond Tutu. I said, "Why is this African here?" Thought we know, just bug you the hell out. What we got to do with them down there? We got our own problems up here in America. That was my issue. But I was trying to figure out, why is this dude Catholic? But the same question could be, why are you Christian? Because why? Because that is the process that everywhere where they conquered and colonized, they took that very same image, and that image accompanied a doctrine. That's what it means when it said brought it to life. Everyone knows the doctrine, whether they believe it or not. I'm gonna yet as I continue.
Verse 16 of Revelation 13. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
So this is where, now see, people will say, hold on, that don't fit the description, right? Because of the vaccine, so to speak, is being given a shot in the shoulder. But that's why I said, what is this really? Not this, but the dynamic of the Bible and the prophecies. They are prophecies, they are moments that are captured. When I say moments that are captured, I'm talking about John got a vision. Like everything that we read in this chapter is what? Are various events that took place in a fluid process of unfolding and constantly developing what? Events. So John didn't see, John just saw what? He saw this, he saw these things at this specific time. Then the Most High took him to another time and of the same nation. Then he took him back. You know, that's where he talks about the image, because that's what they came over here with in the 1400s. Then he's moving forward now. So yeah, when you read the scriptures, man, the mark of the beast literally is the foundation of the mark of the beast is in your head. All the people that's out there that's taking the shot are what? Are into the American doctrine. They're into the Christian doctrine. They're into and believe wholeheartedly the political doctrine. All of that is the mark of the beast. But what? But the intellectual mark, that's the what's in the forehead. The mark in the hand is talking about one's physical actions, your contributions, what? That contribute to this empire. But then when you get to the next verse, it's clearly talking about what? This dynamic is evolving into something more than just doctrine. It's evolving into what? Into a commercial ultimatum. I'm gonna prove it. Read that verse again. I'm gonna get to verse 16.
Verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads.
So your right hand, I'm gonna show you. When you read the scriptures, the right hand is always spoken with reference to your skill. Let's go to the book of Psalms. I'm gonna show you all that. Let's go to the book of Psalms. 137, by the rivers of Babylon. Get that verse. Go to, I believe it's 137 in verse 1. We're going to start off at verse 1 and show you how David brings in, he's talking about being taken captive into Babylon, but then he brings in something about his right hand.
Verse 5.
Yeah, but I want to read from verse 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amiyatazar.
Psalm 137 and verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion.
Now hold on. David wasn't taken into captivity in Babylon. David is prophesying about what would happen in about the 6th century to Jerusalem, where we were taken by the Babylonians. Go ahead, Amiyatazar.
Verse 2. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion.
Listen to this. It shows you the same thing they expect of us in the Americas, to be singing and dancing and entertaining. That was exactly what the Babylonians wanted of us. Sing us one of the songs of Zion. But listen to how David responds. Go ahead.
Verse 4. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?
Yeah, how can we sing? How can we give you joy in this strange land? Go ahead.
If I forget thee, O Jerusalem.
Listen to this. His mind, let me show y'all. His mind is on his home. If I forget thee, Jerusalem, go ahead.
If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning.
Stop. Now go look up the term cunning. You're going to see it means skill or ability, your craft. And I'm gonna tie it all in with with reference to today in one skill.
Okay. Cunning.
Clearly not the adjective, but the noun. But let's hear what he got to say.
You want the noun?
Yeah. Because the adjective is just going to say wily, smart, you know.
Okay. So the noun, dexterous skill.
Listen to this. Read it again.
Dexterous skill.
Dexterous, cunning is your dexterous skill. That means something that a skill that you're good at. Like if a person playing the piano And you go, damn, look at that dexterity. Or the guitar, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That requires meticulous finger work and stuff. Dexterous, read it again.
Dexterous skill and subtlety.
And say it
And
again. I cut you off. Go ahead and read it from the top again.
Dexterous skill and subtlety, as in inventing, devising, or executing.
See that? Inventing, devising, or in executing your thing, your skill. Huh? So the right hand is associated with your work, your contribution, your skill, your invention. Now, when you read, go back to Revelation chapter 13. When it says that they receive the mark in their right hand, it's talking about what? Their skill, their contribution, what it is that they have to offer to the kingdom, to the beast. So what happens, you find out there's a little child prodigy, little blind boy, born in wherever, right? South Carolina, grows up, name is Ray Charles. He ends up with this cunning skill. He was called the genius. But look how he got pulled into what? Doing all the shows. And this was back in the day with all the top notch. I'm just speaking of music alone. You know what, back in the day, a lot of black people couldn't go and see Duke Ellington and them play. A lot of black people couldn't afford, and in those segregation days, you had entire black orchestras that played for white folks were in segregated joints. Meaning what? Blacks couldn't get into them places to see their own people play the piano, to see the Duke Ellington band, to see Count Basie's orchestra, to see the Lionel Hampton orchestra. You understand? People don't know that. To see Billie Holiday perform, to see Sarah Vaughan perform, to see Ella Fitzgerald perform, to see Lena Horne perform. But all of those that were in that class, they served the empire. And you guys are going to see this now. Watch who they did anyone see on Facebook? Marcus Miller did a rendition of "Lift Every Voice and Sing." I don't know if they did it I think they did do it. They didn't perform it at the inauguration. It's a separate video. And they got I remember when we grew up learning "Lift Every Voice and Sing," that song was in commemoration of what we were going through and how we had hoped one day to be delivered from that. And now they're using the fact that Biden and Kamala, whatever this woman's name is in office, that is the freedom that we were singing that song. In other words, we've reached it now. It's horrible, but you go to my Facebook page and you see my caption. These are going to be the same happy niggas that they roll out to get you to take the vaccine. That's one of the things when it says the mark of the beast in their right hand, they're used by the empire. They're going to use Jay-Z. I don't know if Jay-Z and Beyonce is old news now. I don't know. But everybody that through their skill and through their cunning was able to what? To make something of themselves and rise out of the ashes of poverty. These people are what? Committed to the cause of the beast, and you know that. You see what happened 2 days ago? 86 years old Henry. I remember they had a candy bar named after Hank Aaron. Y'all remember that? You had Snicker bars, you had Three Musketeers, you had, Mounds, Almond Joy, and you had old Henry. Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth home run record in the Major League Baseball. This dude got do me a favor, pull up the article, Hank Aaron receives COVID shot. Then you're going to pull up the second article, Hank Aaron's dead at 86. Nigga died this morning, but they got videos of interviewing him. I said, they're going to get that nigga the shot because he's an old nigga. And, he paid his dues. He belonged to Satan. They showed him getting a shot. He got his little blue mask on saying, I don't know, I'm so glad that I could do this. Why does everybody take a shot and talk about how great they damn feel? As if they gave him a shot of cocaine or heroin or something. Yeah, it just feel great. Because they're trying to push the narrative of you take the shot. So he basically said how proud he was to be able to be used to motivate people to take the shot. And he thinks it's a good thing to do. And 2 or 3 days later, this Negro is dead. But you know what? What was it that put him in that position to be used as what? As a Judas goat to lure his people to the slaughter? His skill. And he ain't even doing it now. He's 86 years old. But it was still his cunning, his skill that put him in that position. For his right hand, he was what? Because of what his skill was manifested to be, he what? He pushed the beast agenda to the last day of his death. You got that, Amayetazar? Put it up there.
Yeah.
I want to feel sorry for none of these old sorry ass niggas. This old ass nigga know about this. There you go. What date was that?
This was like
Damn,
11
said
hours
11
ago.
hours ago. But no, that must be when the article was posted. Shit. This is scary, Amayetazar. It says 12 hours ago, Hank Aaron receives COVID vaccination. Then it says 10 hours ago, the nigga died.
Yeah.
I want to make sure the timeline, because the time could be in reference to when that article is posted. You know what I mean?
It was the 6th of January.
Oh, the 6th of January.
Yeah, that's correct.
That nigga didn't leave 2 weeks. He didn't live 2 weeks more. See that?
I'll say 5th of January.
The 5th of January, and he died this morning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so much for that. You
There
know?
you go.
Now, okay, where we at? There you go. I was proud to get the COVID-19 vaccine early today at Morehouse School of Medicine. I hope, nigga, you can kiss my, I hope you do the same. Well, I was gonna say this nigga's out of his mind, but he literally is out of his body now, so.
Yeah.
He got what he deserved, Doc. But the point is, let's be real, y'all. What put him in the position to be used as what? As an example for the rest of us was his skill, was his right hand, was it not?
Yeah.
All right. Now, that's the mark of the beast. Like I said, go back, Amayetazar, to verse 16 again.
Yeah.
And read that. Read verse 16 again.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or
So
in their
mark,
forehead.
listen, the mark wasn't the shot. The mark was the fact that what? That he was a part of the system and he was inducted in and received benefits because of his skill. Whereas, but had he not been, listen, but that also showed you that he also had the mark in his, ideologically, he was with the American way.
Yep.
Now that's a perfect demonstration of it. Now you take that and you amplify it by the niggas that was in that what you call it. Amayetazar, do me a favor, put up Marcus Miller, Lift Every Voice and Sing. They got B.B. Winans, Lisa Fisher, Jeffrey Osborne, just all their happy little uncle niggas, man. Singing, just singing for the damn white man. And these are gonna be this, if not them specifically, that's the same class that is indebted to what? To be used as motives, living motivations to what? To prompt us to come and be, to fulfill or to perform that which the empire had planned for us. Yes, Daria.
Have you seen the Hunger Games?
Who?
Hunger Games, the movie. Have you seen
Yeah,
that?
it's a long time, but I saw the Hunger Games. Yeah, they was divided up into different regions and shit and had to compete for food.
No, but the part I always criticize was the celebrity. They use
Exactly.
that celebrity element of how they still ordered, manipulated, and passed their concepts to the people. Well,
Yeah.
Celebrity class.
Right. And it's the same thing. So now, in the evolutionary process of what this mark is going to become, that's what verse 17 have. Amayetazar, you got that image or whatever? If you don't have nothing, don't sweat it. We can finish this up.
There's like videos.
That's what I'm saying. Put that shit in the what you call it, in the chat.
Oh, okay. One second.
I'm trying to show you why. But listen, I want you to put the one in the chat room that's in reference to the inauguration. These niggas was celebrating, showing pictures of Biden, showing pictures of Kamala. They got a bunch of black celebrity women calling each other queens, talking about, you done did it, girl. Every time you keep on raising the bar, queen. This damn Wookiee ass man, Michelle Obama, is in there basically pumping the world, thinking that because Kamala Harris, who ain't even an Israelite, you understand? Like that's something to be celebrated. All of this, they're pouring a whole lot into making black people think this is the hype. This was the goal. Same shit they did with Barack Hussein, Allah Akbar, Obama. Damn Muslim. Anyway, so go ahead, Amayetazar. Read verse 17 now.
Okay. Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
So now 17 is just what? Knowing how, and listen, I could take the rest of I could take next Friday the whole night and just show you the Bible is a book of prophecy, but the prophecies what unfold in evolutionary fluidity is what I call it. And so when we read each verse, we're reading a verse that's used an image. In other words, let me put it like this: there's a point in time that John sees and he captures that and he describes it. But it's not talking about that's only it. And none of the prophecies have been like that. You read Daniel chapter what? Daniel chapter 2? Daniel chapter 2 is just capturing this image, and each image is indicative of an empire. But then when you get to chapter 7, it evolves a little more. Now it gives you the image of the actual images of that the empires had. The eagle, the griffin, the eagle with lion's wing, or the lion with eagle's wings. It gives you the bear. It says it raised itself up on one side. It said, but the higher side came up last. That's a stage that had to be arrived at. Why? Because when the Persians and the Median Empire first appeared, the Persians were vassal and the Medes were the top dog of that union. But at the time and point where Daniel saw the vision, the Medes now had what? Had become vassal to the Persians. But see, people don't know that history. They don't understand that. So they don't understand that the prophecies that we're seeing in a verse are what? Moments that are captured out of evolving fluid events. So by the time we get to verse 17 in chapter 13 of Revelations, is letting us know that this mark, if those that have it, that type of loyalty is eventually becomes what? It becomes obligatory. And so much so that you will not be able to participate in commercial activity. It ain't just talking about going to the store and buying. It's talking about any service that you pay for, any service that you offer. What do we do when we go and work? We're selling our services. And the compensation that we get is called a paycheck. You're still selling your service, and you get money taken out of that. Well, the point is, if you don't receive what eventually the mark evolves into, because see, the mark of the beast in its basic state, in intellect, right, ideology, American religious ideology, and then the skill that you have to offer to that kingdom. But it grows beyond that. And so those that hold and harbor, that retain that basic mark, and they don't end up going through an experience like we have, where we end up, because we all had the mark too. I was a damn Christian. I worked as a correction officer in a damn prison facility. You can't get no more mark of the beast than that, nigga, going to church and keeping niggas prisoner. If that ain't the mark of the beast, if that ain't the mark of the beast in your forehead and your right hand, then there ain't no such thing. What was my job? My job was of the three things. This is what they always told us. We had to learn this. Our job is to keep the prisoners from escaping, to keep the prisoners from destroying property, and to keep the prisoners from injuring themselves or other prisoners. That was it. It was all about protecting the property and keeping the prisoners alive to do their work. Now you can't tell me that's not my right hand with the mark of the beast. You understand? And then the Christianity speaks of itself. But by the time the loyalty promulgated by the mark of the beast, because that's what it is. It's a loyalty to the system. It's a loyalty to the oppressor. It's the loyalty to the empire. And if something doesn't happen like happened with us to break that loyalty and channel our loyalties to the Most High through Christ, then you keep that loyalty. And then what? Whatever that kingdom demands is an extension of that mark. You're fulfilling everything you fulfill because you're marked, because your mind is there. So it's going to get to the point where something's going to be demanded that unless you do this, you will not be able to exercise or participate in this commercial activity in any way. And they're starting off by saying flying, right? Traveling, working in government jobs and certain other facilities, the private sectors now is beginning to impose that. Go ahead, Amayetazar. Verse 17.
Verse 17. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
Go ahead.
Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Yeah, man, now that's right there. It's commercial. All you got to do right now, Amayetazar, is look up mark of beast UPC. It's going to say Universal Product Code or Universal Barcode. It's more commonly known now as UPC, Universal Product Code. But you got to put mark of the beast first because you should get an image that shows how that code is structured. And that's what Esau is doing. Let me say this. What is the barcode? It's basically the digital readout of some product that is someone's intellectual or some type of property of theirs. And so Nagaha was explaining about how this thing have nanobots, and it's not a vaccine, it's actually a nanotech operating system made for humans to make you compatible with artificial intelligence. That's what it's changing it's designed to go in and download information into your DNA. And that information is designed supposedly to cause you to undergo a DNA metamorphosis that makes you compatible with certain computing or Wi-Fi or artificial intelligence operating systems. That's what it's for. So in other words, he's taking you and claiming you now, making an alteration and claiming you as his intellectual property. Why the Most High say everybody that get is gonna burn? Because you're no longer his. So this is what? This is just an extended ultimatum that's given that those who are already loyal to the beast, that are already loyal and contributing to the upholding of the beast, will what? Will follow lockstep. Listen to this nigga Hank. Look what he did. And he wrote, his last letters was, they got to put it, he was proud to take the COVID shot. That's what they should engrave or spray paint. That nigga don't even need it. He don't deserve a engraved tombstone. He deserve a graffiti tombstone, this stupid nigga. But that's what happened. He's 86 years old, so he's from old civil rights movement, Uncle Tom. He was just glad to have made it. And from that point on, he was willing and be ready to be used in any way that the kingdom, that the empire would want to use him to his people's detriment. You got anything, Amayetazar?
Yeah. This image.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and sometimes you be wanting to find the one that's the most visually comprehensive, you know? There you go. Now let's talk about the top one, the top image. Buy, sell, right? You see those 3 6s underneath that? Those 3 6s represent those double bar lines on the right to the left extreme, in the middle, and to the right extreme. That's all it is. All of those different bars, those different lines represent a number. And then I forgot how it goes, but 1 6 from 1 6 to the from the left 6 to the middle 6 is all of the information concerning the seller, concerning the producer of that product, and then from the middle 6 to the right 6 is all the information that tells you where it's distributed to, where it's going to be sold at. That's why I said buy, sell. And that's on. Now you can listen. Now all you got to do is look. You're going to always find it. That is the basic and concrete anatomy of a barcode. Simple and plain. That's what it's meant. So the information in between each of those 3 lines, to the left quarter and to the left half and the right half, is all different. But what remains the same are those 3 sets of double lines, 6, 6, 6. So it's talking, and that's why it says buy, sell. So they want to, Esau wants to do this to our DNA. He wants to do this to us. He wants to take us and genetically modify us and make us no longer the intellectual property and manifestation of the Most High's creation himself, his hands. He wants to what? Claim us as his creation. Now we will be made supposedly in Esau's image. And that's the basic breakdown. All right. So, and it tells you it's the number of a man. It's not talking about an individual. It's talking about a people. Like when you read the scriptures and the Most High say the wicked, he ain't talking about one person. He's talking about that seed. The righteous man, he ain't talking about one righteous. He's talking about the seed. So, I'm done there. We'll get into chapter. I'll tell you what. Next Friday, I want to go a little bit extensive into the whole the mark. All right, or the number of the beast, the 666. That's what I want to do. So it's going to be an extension of this, but listen, if we might end up doing that or going into chapter 14, I have to think about it. I don't want to waste any unnecessary time, but for me, this is important because believe it or not, this is where we are. You're gonna have many Israelite groups that can't see it. And these brothers are posting images and posting those, them little Facebook squares where it'll have a background color, orange, red, and then it just have some quote or something a sentence written in there. You got people doing that in Israel talking about Israel is afraid of a vaccine, but not of crack. And nigga, those of us that are awake are afraid of all of it. It's stupid shit, man. Like Israel try to oversimplify something that could result in you losing your damn soul. And I ain't heard one of them comment on all the people that's taking the shot and getting bar guillaumes or whatever that shit is that paralyzes one half of your head. Make you look like some damn Batman villain. One side of your face is normal, the other one is just frozen. Man, are they seeing this? I'm going back to that again. These Israelite brothers that's mocking people for being leery or cautious at best, right? At least of the vaccine. Are you guys even following this shit? Are you seeing people I saw a video today of 2 women violently shaking. I'm talking about not having fits. They no longer can stop shaking. Days after taking the damn vaccine. So this is I'm just going to decide by next week what I want to do. If I'm going to go a little bit into, when I say that, meaning this verses 16 through 18, then it just follows up in chapter 14 with, something happened. A grievous sore fell upon them that took the mark. You know, then another one says, this is what's going to happen to those that have received the mark. I kind of want to follow. Matter of fact, I'll do that before we go into chapter 14, because you're going to find this in the successive chapters of Revelations as we move forward. But I still want to present this, all of those verses together. Then we can continue in chapter 14. All right, y'all.
Huh.
So I'm gonna see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Brothers and sisters, I'll see y'all next. Hey, shalom, Kwam. Where was you at, Ak? You just got back?
No, I'll be here all the time. I'm just in my head. But my name's Yohanada.
Oh, Yohanada?
Yeah.
Okay, brother. Yohanada. Listen, man, y'all gotta sit where I can see y'all, man. What I'm telling you, I done said this. Y'all gotta stop this shit hiding out from the camera. What you guys, America's Most Wanted? Got a bunch of niggas acting like criminals in this school.
It's just an available desk, guys.
Say that again.
It's just an available desk, guys.
I can't. Back away a little bit and say that again.
I said it was an available desk.
Oh, okay. Listen, I want what do you mean an available desk? I'm looking at all the available desks. Let me ask you this, when are you gonna listen? When are you gonna start teaching? And when you do you imagine you're gonna want to see an empty class?
Hell no.
All right, then sit where I can see y'all.
God,
All right, brother. It's good to see you. You looking good in that vest, Doc. How you been, brother? All right, man. You're looking strong, Doc. Yohanada. I gotta remind myself of that. All right. Shalom, brother.
All right, shalom, yo.
Shalom. All right, Nagaha. We'll talk later, Doc.
All right, shalom, man.
Shalom. I'm Shalom.